All right. Hi, everyone. Could you just could you confirm that you're seeing my screen?
Yep.
Yep, I can see it.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us today. This is the training session, the member interface of ConsortiaManager. My name is Niels Jensen. I'm one of the co-founders of ConsortiaManager, and I'm going to take you through the member interface of ConsortiaManager today to show you the way that you do your renewals and place orders in the system. If you have any questions, feel free to interrupt me. We expect this training, normally these types of training sessions takes around an hour, including questions, but feel free to interrupt me or raise your hand or use the chat function. And maybe Cynthia or Nia, whichever one of you, could you perhaps look at the chat? I don't see it. It's not as obvious to me when something comes in since I'm doing full screen presentation here on my end.
Sure, I'll monitor it.
All right, cool. So the program for today is just a little bit about ConsortiaManager. I'm not going to bore you to death with anything, but I do want you to understand who we are and what the purpose of ConsortiaManager is, so you have a better understanding of perhaps why your consortium has chosen ConsortiaManager to manage the entire acquisition cycle and all the agreements that they have in place for you. Then I'm going to give you the demo of the member interface, which is, of course, important. You're all acquisitions librarians, I assume, so this should come as no surprise to you. If you can use a subscription agent's interface or a publisher's interface, you'll surely be able to use ConsortiaManager, but it's still okay to just get a sense of what it is and what it looks like and what you can do. And then we'll have some time for questions at the end as well, if there's anything else. Just quickly about myself, I have, I think, 20-something years of background in the industry. I've worked both for scientific publishers. I've worked for subscription agents before I started ConsortiaManager, which is basically software development. So I do know a little bit about Consortia in advance. I have created Consortia as a subscription agent. I've serviced Consortia as a publisher, and now I've built a tool in collaboration with a Danish Consortia. We started back in 2014 by creating ConsortiaManager with the Danish digital libraries. It's all the public libraries of Denmark. There's roughly, well, I think there's 99 public libraries in Denmark, excluding all the small branch libraries. And they used to be 4 people, and now they were just 2. And the 2 that were left were brand new. So they had kind of a problem understanding the history of all these agreements and where to find the information. A lot of Word documents, licenses, Excel spreadsheets, and so forth, Post-it notes. So they asked us to develop a tool for them to help them manage this. And since then, we've just grown and grown and grown because Consortia heard about what we were doing. And we are now servicing more than 60 consortia and more than 12,000 libraries that are part of those consortia. We're 6 people, primarily based in Copenhagen, Denmark, which is where I'm from myself, and I'm speaking from right now. We're still a privately owned company, owned 50% each by me and my co-founder, Thijs, who also has a background in the subscription agent business. I think the system handles something like 100,000 plus subscriptions every year. and more than €1 billion are transacted through the system. So that should give you an idea of the communication we have with both members and publishers on the other side. So our purpose is really to streamline workflows. As I said, we do have a little bit of experience with being the middleman from our background in subscription agents. So you have publishers on one side and the libraries on the other side, which is pretty much what a consortium also does. So to streamline this whole process and build a piece of software that took care of it, we had to look at this communication that goes on from the consortium to the publisher and from the consortium to the member. So dear publisher, what's the price? Dear consortium, here's the price. Dear library, here's the price. Invoicing, orders, and all those things. And when we looked at that acquisition cycle, you would recognize this. It could look in a lot of different ways, but basically you have to acquire stuff, you have to pay for it, you have to supply supporting information that's relevant to what you're buying, could be title lists and so forth. You have to administrate it during the subscription period, and then you have to evaluate it before you do it all over again. So there's a lot of repetition in this. There's a lot of different agreements and different subscriptions for different members, but they have some commonalities that we tried to capture in the system. So when we looked at this acquisition cycle, we basically just took all the things that would be helpful to add a layer of quality to this communication. So in order to make sure that we had a quicker turnaround from the publishers, we want to make it easy for them to give us prices. So why don't we include, let's say, the FTE information so they don't have to come back and ask us. And when we ask for one of our members to renew one of their products, couldn't we show them the license terms while we're at it? Last year's price, what the price increase has been, what the title list is, whether any titles have been added or removed from the journal collection that you're being asked to renew, so forth. So all the things that we started out with in the system was basically made to make this run a little bit smoother. Okay. So all the things that you will see, you will say, well, it kind of looks like an ERM, at least from the consortium's perspective. But we created this more to help the consortia do more. So instead of just creating a what do you call it, like a filing cabinet for information, we tried to stretch out this acquisition cycle and figure out what needs to happen in the various stages. And that's what we do for every single consortium that we serve. I don't think that many consortia have the exact same workflow. Everyone works a little bit different. Some invoice in the original currency, some in local currency, some ask for prices, some auto renew, and so forth. There's so many different ways of doing things, but we basically allow the consortium to set up their own acquisition cycle and then try to execute on the tasks with ease. So when you want to ask for renewal pricing from Springer, you click a button, and then it automatically generates a spreadsheet with all the information so that it's easy for Springer to get back to us with some prices that we can then upload into the system. So all these stages trigger different tasks. And then, you'll say, well, what does that have to do with me? Well, typically, the member benefits, the member value that when we do surveys of our libraries, they say that some of the benefits of ConsortiaManager is that more products can be offered because it's easier. It's easier to push out a product to members and get some feedback on it or get some trial requests back. There's a better overview of all the offers and pending renewals. It's easier to share licensed product and price info and look it up when you need it. In your case, there's also the possibility of looking at forecast reports for the coming year. So once your consortium gets into filling out all these details, you'll be able to see forecasts for the coming year. It also allows you to manage your IP addresses and FTE data and so forth, but it's different from consortium to consortium, what they allow you to update and what they find that they should update themselves. It also depends on whether the information comes from a central point of view. But your consortium will let you know. All right, so that's. I want to pause here and just ask if there are any questions. This was just supposed to be like a very, very quick introduction to what it is that we do and why consortia choose to use ConsortiaManager.
Nothing in the chat.
All right, I felt like I could hear a pin drop there, so maybe no questions for now. So let's get into the system. So I will impersonate Allison here, and I've filled out a couple of subscriptions with subscription renewals and a couple of new products with some random pricing. So if Allison is on the call right now, don't worry, I'm not going to be ordering stuff on your behalf. This is the staging environment that we're in, so I could do whatever I want without placing $1 million orders with any of the publishers. All right, so when you log into the system, at some point you're gonna get a link to set your own password in the system. And when you've done that and you log into the system, the first thing you're gonna see is the landing page for your institution. So all you're seeing in this interface is the things that are relevant to you. So the things that have been priced out for you, the things that are shared among all the members, like the catalog, information on products that you don't subscribe to. But it's all centered on you. So in this case here, I see that we have a renewal overview. We have how much has been spent in 23, how much has been spent so far in 24. You will be able to see when we use estimates, you will be able to see it here. A lot of times, particularly the exchange rates are estimated, because if we get a €1,000 price from the publisher, that particular price is not cannot be finalized in local currency until we know what it was when it was paid. So notice when there's an E here, the estimate just means that the Canadian price is estimated. You will see the renewals that you've accepted so far, and let me just get the chat up here. Yeah, so that's Cynthia's a comment that until we pay the invoice, the Canadian dollar price will remain an estimate. So your consortium has the opportunity to set the exact exchange rate. But if you want to set it precisely, then you have to wait for payment to take place. So you know exactly which currency, what the exchange rate was when you paid it. So you can see the renewals that you've accepted so far. You can see any new agreements that you have accepted. You can see a subtotal of that. And again, don't mind the numbers here because this is a test interface. You can see any pending renewals that you have waiting, the value of those. And also, if you have unpublished renewals where you have created the new period, but no price has been added, then you will be able to see your unpublished renewals here. That will actually be just the pricing from last year. So it's a very conservative guess, but it's better than nothing, so that you can get a total estimated spend for the upcoming period. And also, if you do cancellations, you can see that. This box here is probably the most important box, but I'm going to return to that in a short while. You can see your latest emails from the system. You can also drag these boxes and move them around if you find that you want to change it around a little bit. But here you can see the latest emails from the system. So you can see that there's a support ticket that was created here. You can see that there's a subscription order confirmation, and there's some information about some new offers that have been published. So all the emails that go out through the system to you are also collected in here, so that everyone from your institution can see them. Then there's an agreement overview that is a bit more detailed and has 3 years of data on them. There's some boxes here with accepted, pending, and canceled subscriptions, total spend per year, and the renewal status of your subscriptions. And then there are recent offers. The most important box is up here, though. That's the most important thing. You can look up a lot of information in the system, but of course, the most important thing is that you can actually decide on new products to buy and renewals to make, or cancellations to make. So when there's a new offer that's been published, your consortium can choose to email you about it. So we just saw that we had some new offers published here. So if we look at this, this is typically what an email with a new offer would look like. So here you see that three journals from Science has been published. That means that we have a price that's finalized, and you can go ahead and make your decision on them. You can see that there are Science Signaling, Science Translational Medicine. Now, you can also see that you've got 2 renewals pending, and you can see that there are 3 newly added titles. So you could have things that were being added that you have not subscribed to in the past that maybe you wanted to take a look at, because maybe, just maybe, it was something that you'd be interested in subscribing to. But if we start with the renewals, you have a special page called Renewals. So you can either get to it from the More section under Renewals, or you can simply just click Open Renewals here. So when you do that, you'll see that you have the products that have been finalized and have a price and are ready for you to order. They will be listed here. They're also in the catalog, but your renewals have a special page because they contain a little bit more information than your regular catalog entries of things that you don't subscribe to. So here you see Science Signaling. The subscription period is from the end of July. It has a deadline of the 24th of July. It doesn't have a list price, which could have been entered here. It does have the price from last year. It has the price change, which is 3%. This is something I came up with, so don't hold it against your consortium if that doesn't hold up. There's also a notes field, so if the consortium has added any notes for you regarding this subscription, they'll be here, and of course the price. But if you want to know more, there's also agreement info, product info, price info, and license info. So here I just added some generic information about the science journals, but it could be more in terms of what is included in the agreement from Science this year. The product info is very specific, of course. That's Science Signaling and could be an explanation of what the product contains. There's price info, so I just added something here, but it could be, let's say, a price matrix that showcase or displays the different tiers and the FTE levels and the corresponding prices. so that you know why you're paying this particular price. Where do I fit in? Am I a tier 4 or tier 3 and so forth? And then, of course, there's license info. So in this case, I just, I think I made up this license actually. So please don't hold it against me if it's completely wrong. But you can see that there are certain things that have been quantified. So for instance, whether is course pack use allowed, or can we do ILL? Do we have perpetual access? Is there an opt-out clause? And you can see whether that's allowed or not, or whether it's not relevant at all. And then you can see, for instance, if if the license itself have been uploaded, you can find it here. And also, if there are any links to websites that describe things more thoroughly, they can be put in here as well. And then I see Cynthia writing that they're in the process of populating ConsortiaManager with licenses and usage terms, etc. And please, this is me who forgot. This is something that I always say, is that please have a little bit of patience with your consortium. There's room for tons of stuff in ConsortiaManager, but you can't populate it all up front. Then you would never get off the ground with ConsortiaManager, because there's room for a lot of data. So typically, what we make sure is that we have the historical subscription data in the system, so we have something to work off of. And then once we take the subscriptions through the renewal process, all of a sudden you'll see descriptions added, you'll see licenses added, you'll see maybe title lists added, and so forth. But have a little bit of patience, because it does take a long time and it's easier to do while you're in the process. Yeah, so Pamela is asking whether they can link to the information so that the end user can check what's permitted, or if it's hidden. Currently, it is actually hidden because you need to log in, but we are having discussions about whether parts of ConsortiaManager should be publicly available. Because, I mean, obviously some of the stuff is just, is not secret. It's something that you may want to actually put on your website, or you want to link to it from your own systems. But currently it is behind a username and password. It's only for authorized users. Yeah. All right, so there's a lot of stuff here that you can find, and of course here it's just 2 titles. It's very little, but imagine that you had 20 or more renewals that you had to do. All of a sudden, it's nice to have one overview of what all those things are. If you decide that you want to renew something or cancel something, this is where you do it. If you don't want it, press the X, the red X. If you do want to subscribe to it, add the product to the basket, just like you would in any sort of online interface. It is now sitting in the basket, and you can see that there's a little sign up here that with a number that states how many things you have in the basket. Now you can just leave it there. Just remember, it's not renewed until you check out. And I'll show you in a short while what the shopping cart looks like and what it is that you can select there to do. All right. However, as we saw from the dashboard, there could be other stuff that had been added that you wanted to take a look at. Or maybe you were in the middle of a renewal where you wanted to check out whether you could actually get this at a discount through your consortium. Now, that's where you would go to the catalog. Now, you can either navigate it from here, where it will automatically filter for newly added. So we can do that. Or you can click the catalog button. So let's just, if we click here, you can see that we've already filtered it by recently published. And you can see sign signaling, and ABI inform collection, which is $10,000, which is something, again, that I made up. But here, you can also find the same type of information that we just saw on the renewal page. You just have to dig a little deeper. So if I, for instance, look at the product for ABI Inform Collection, I can go here. I can see a little bit about the description. I can see who else subscribes to this product. So if I have questions that I want to ask about this product, I can. And also I can see if there are any title lists. And here you can see it's a read title list. So if you were research intensive university and you had a transformative agreement, maybe this was a publish list instead, where you could see where you could publish and under what conditions, etc. But this is what you can see in the product. Also, you can look at the agreement. Now, the agreement, not to get into deep in it, but it's a way for your consortium to group products that are the same. You saw before that we had the science agreement, and the science agreement had all the science titles. And it could be EBSCO databases or ProQuest databases. It's a way to gather up stuff that are the same from the same vendor, EBSCO ebooks or whatever it could be, so that you have a way to group those things and see what's actually together under that vendor. So if we look at that, you can see that there's an agreement summary. There's some pricing information that I made up. And you can see the license information that we just looked at. I think this license is actually real. And you can see what the development has been over time in terms of pricing, etc. And if there are any files that have been shared with you by the consortium, could be, you know, user manuals or anything like that that has been uploaded. So if we just look at the catalog again, let's say that it was ABI Inform, right? So I'll take this and I will order it. So you notice that we can filter in the top in these top fields here. If you want to see more stuff, other stuff, there is a way to toggle the columns. So if you needed to see the publisher, or you wanted to see the list price or anything like that, you can actually just add it here to the columns that you're seeing. But if we take the default columns, the type here, R means a renewal, and N means new subscription. Now, a new subscription means that it has not been registered in ConsortiaManager before. For ConsortiaManager, it's a new subscription. So maybe let's say that you already subscribe to Bloomsbury Religion directly with the publisher, but now you want to order it through here. Obviously, it'll be registered as a new subscription, even though for you it's actually a renewal. So just keep that in mind, that this is about what the consortium knows. But renewals and new subscriptions. Then if there are any notes on the offer, it could be that it's a prorated offer, it could be that it's a special introductory offer, anything that the consortium wants to relay to you, you can find here. Agreement name, product name, start and end dates, and very importantly, a deadline. Now, the deadline, oh, I see that we have Cynthia has raised her hand.
Yeah, so quick question around the notes. Does it change color when there's actually content in there, or in any way signal to you that it's got something in there for you to look at?
Yes, when there is something, it's dark. So it becomes dark blue, like the color of the renewal icon here. So that's actually a good point. So there's only a note if it's dark.
Excellent, thank you.
All right, so the deadline is important because once we reach the deadline, all these prices will move into request price. And the reason that happens is that, for instance, let's say that it's now July and you're looking at a calendar year subscription. Well, you can request the price so that you can get a prorated price, but we will not give you just the full annual price because that would be wrong. You should probably have a prorated price. So the minute something hits the deadline, it goes into request price. And that's because the consortium also have to wrap up this agreement. So just keep that in mind. It doesn't mean that you can't order it. It just means that maybe you need to get a price from the publisher for your particular subscription request for the first year. Also, on that note, for your renewals, it's even more important. It's even more important that when you look at your renewals, this deadline is super important, because if you do not respond by that deadline, your subscription is going to auto reject. That means that it's going to go into cancel state, and then a cancellation will be sent off along with the other orders to the publisher to avoid that, a renewal that shouldn't happen. So again, it doesn't mean that if, for instance, you can't get back in time. Let's say that you say, oh, but I won't get my budget until the 1st of August. Then write your consortium. They will extend the deadline just for you. But do that instead of just let it go into cancellation, because it will auto reject, and then a cancellation will be sent later on to the publisher. And of course, if you know that you're going to cancel it, make sure that you do make it an active cancellation. Cancel the product so that your consortium knows that it's not just forgetfulness that you forgot to renew your subscription. All right, quickly back to the catalog. So if there's a product that you want a price for, Bloomsbury, you simply click the request price button. You put in the requested start date of when would you want the subscription from. You put in the details of what it is that you're asking for. Oh, it's 2 simultaneous users or whatever it is, and then you send it, and it will go back to your consortium. If there's something you can't find, and you thought like, oh my God, I wanted access to this third iron or something, you can request a product to be added. And that's good because the consortium can keep track of what everyone is requesting. So it's not just, phone calls and emails and all kinds of stuff that have to be consolidated. So you could say, okay, so I can't even remember what the third iron publisher is, but let's just put third iron. And I want it to begin on September 1st. Some user, for instance. And then you can send that. Now, then consortia can resolve that. Maybe they've already tried negotiating a deal. Maybe no one else was interested in it and so forth. But they can actually get back to you through the system and just let you know whether they're moving on with it or whether they've found a price for you, etc. Oh, Denise asks whether they can use this for non-CAAL licensing. I think, Denise, you're going to have to elaborate a little bit on that. I'm not sure I understand it completely.
I think the idea is that they're hoping to use it for their own local licensing. Is that it, Denise?
Yes.
So in what way? Oh, so you wanted to add your own subscriptions and be able to manage it through this interface, or?
Yes.
We're kind of heading that way, but it's not possible yet. I know that we are on the brink of launching an OA journal finder. So all, you know, if you're one of the institutions that need to tell your researchers where they can publish open access and under which terms, that bit will actually entail also not just the transformative agreements from the consortium, but also the subscriptions or the agreements that the institutions have themselves. And those are by default also subscriptions. It's just for transformative agreements. So I would say you can't do it now, but it's coming. And there is stuff underway. And it's via something else with these transformative agreements, but whether it's a transformative agreement or a regular subscription wouldn't really make that much of a difference. But I can't give you a date. I'm sorry. All right. So any questions to the catalog? I mean, if you've used a catalog before, I'm pretty sure that you could use this. I think we should just move on to the shopping cart and take a look at how do we actually finalize our orders. So in this case, I had put in one new subscription or new order and one renewal. You can put in your PO numbers. If you have the same, some institutions have the same PO number, well, subscription number that carry over from year to year. You can actually copy last year's references for all the orders that you have in the shopping cart. But if it's a PO number that is different from year to year, you can put it in here. And you can another one here. You can also, if you have multiple different billing addresses, you can choose. So let's say that you had two different libraries or departments or something that was responsible for this, or two different account codes or something. You can actually add billing addresses yourself and then choose which billing address to use for which subscription. When you want to place your order, you simply just click either up here, then you tick all the boxes, or you can also place just individual orders if you want to do that. You can print off a form. So if you need something for your own, you will also get an order confirmation. I'll show you. But if you need something, for instance, let's say that you didn't have a PO yet. You could actually print off this particular shopping cart. So I'll show you what that looks like. This is what that would look like. And you have whatever you have in the basket here, and we can add a signature field here so that you guys have that for your internal purposes before you actually place the order. Oh, Cynthia?
Yeah, so back here where you were talking about billing options and being able to choose different billing locations, where does a member enter that information? You said the member could actually
I'll show
add
you
it.
that. That's later on. That's under the profile. I'll get to that.
Oh, okay. So they can't just do it on the fly here.
No, they have to create them in advance, because there's a drop down and you can
Okay.
and you can choose from it. I think it's because we want to avoid typos and misspellings and stuff like that. We want to just create them the way that they're created, and then you choose from them in the drop down.
Okay.
When you're placing the order. But I mean, yeah, in effect, maybe you could even create them from here, but it's not currently possible.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So
A question, Nate.
Yeah.
I was going to ask about the printing of the approval form, because I've used ConsortiaManager with some other jobs that I've done. I think I find it easier when after we submit into the basket, it automatically sends us the approval.
Yeah.
And then telling us that the billing would come ahead.
Yeah,
So
yeah. This is only, I mean, you would only print this off in advance if you had it sitting in your shopping cart and you say, I can't place the order yet. I'm going to print it off. I'm going to send it off for signature and I'm going to get a PO. And once I get a PO, I'm going to come back. Then I'm going to put that in and then I'm going to place the order. But, it's different from institution to institution. Hopefully you guys are mandated to make those decisions yourself. But I mean, sometimes the system just requires a PO number because otherwise the invoice won't get paid. But yeah,
And
everyone.
on that too, with the invoice being paid from multi-funds,
Yeah.
now let's say I'm paying for the Abby Inform with 3 or more funds. So I
Yeah.
get to add all the PO line or the funds that I'm going to use, or how do we go about that?
You would have to add them all in a single field. We don't have multiple POs. But I think
So
yeah, go ahead.
just as a heads up, we don't do invoicing in ConsortiaManager because that's done by ISI. So there is no real way of doing purchase orders or anything like that. We don't deal with those because the invoicing gets done on 3 times a year through ISI directly, not through ConsortiaManager.
Okay, good. So that means we don't need to bother about that part.
No,
Not
Good.
unless the information goes to ISI and they deal with it. But again,
no, we just don't deal with purchase orders, member purchase orders. Everything is done through that invoicing process.
all right, but we can talk more about that offline, Cynthia, if there's anything that we can do to ease that. But let's take that offline. So whenever you want to place the order, just select the subscriptions you want to choose, and then you place the orders. And now you can see, as it was mentioned before, there are subscription. We've got price request that we just put in. We've got a subscription order confirmation here that you can see that you placed these orders. And you can also see the approval form, which is basically a copy of it's basically a copy of this. So that you have some confirmation about what it is that you've ordered. Then there's the subscriptions tab, because this is also important. When you go to the subscriptions tab, it's typically pre-filtered to the current year. Everything that begins in 2024 will show here. It is actually subscription periods, so you could also just remove this and then get all the periods that you've ever subscribed to. You could also just look at the stuff that's coming up next year. There is nothing at the moment, but this is the way that it filters down. It works in exactly the same way as the filter in the catalog. And also here, you can also toggle columns with different things. So if you want to check out what the local price was, or who the publisher is, and what the product category was, and so forth, you can just add them here. And of course, you can link through to them just in the way that I showed you in the catalog. Then under the More tab, we have a couple of different things that you can do. The first thing is the license summary. Now, you already saw what the license summary looks like on the individual product, on the individual renewal that you have. But all the different things that have been quantified by your consortium, like whether their course packs are allowed, whether there's ILL, opt-in, opt-out clause, and perpetual access, you actually get a chance to view that across all your licenses to get an easy overview of saying, hey, does anyone not offer us opt-out clauses, or do any of the products not offer ILL? And that's actually something that's pretty good. You can also export it so that you get this view across all your licenses, and you can apply different filters like which year, whether it's just stuff that you subscribe to or across the board for all the licenses that are managed in ConsortiaManager. Then there's a contact form. So you can contact either license managers. So here you can see Thijs and myself are included here as well on the staging site. But you could also say, I want to reach out to someone else from the consortium. So Abby, if I wanted to reach out to you, I could. And anyone else that I would want to reach out to, I can do that here, and I can write them a message, and it'll be stored in here. I think most people use the address book instead. If they need to reach out to others from the consortium, find different people, the address book is probably where people go, and just use their own email for the purposes of communication. And of course, the consortium, you can see them as well. Then we got support tickets. So if I just created one here about some lost access, but if you have something that you want to ask the consortium about, I don't know whether, Cynthia, you have any sort of guidelines about what the support tickets are for, or whether it's for everything that you want it to be used.
Not yet. That we are working on documentation for
Okay.
members, and that will be defined once we have that out.
Okay, but it's a good way to communicate on these little sort of fairly straightforward thing. We lost access. Hey, when does this expire? Or where are you going to set up a blah blah blah. All these things are easy because they can actually be the tickets can be handled and closed in the system, and they can be handled and closed by everyone in the consortium. They share like a pool of these support tickets, so it's much better than just writing an email to one person, and then it'll sit there if the person's on vacation, etc. And it's super easy to create one. You just give it a title. If there's categories and subcategories, you could do that. So maybe it's missing access, maybe it's something else. And you can also say, is it about a particular product or a particular agreement that you're asking about, to make it easier for and to link it in ConsortiaManager to those products and agreements, and then you can describe it, and then you can save it. It's even got room for IP address and stuff like that. And then once you make them, they will be listed here, so you can keep track of whether they're actually being closed out and whether they're being responded to. The product requests that I just showed you, they're here. So they have a special section that's not just wrapped up with all the other support tickets. They actually have a special place. So it's easy for you to figure out like whether you've actually got the prices that you were requesting, or whether you have got a response to the product request that you wanted included. And then the reporting section, and that's actually it's really useful, and it's also really simple to use. Now, earlier today, I just created a 2023 subscription report just to show you that your consortium can create standard reports and make them available to you. So that means that here it's a 2023 subscription report that you basically can just generate by clicking the cogwheels. You'll get an email with the results. But today I will show you how to build your own, so you don't have to wait for the consortium to do it exactly the way that you want it done, and it's super easy. So you can create a new report up here and on the green button. You also have a forecast report, and the forecast report will tell you either forecasted prices or actual prices for the upcoming period. And I actually pulled one. Let's see here, what did we do with that? It's here. So I hope that you can see this, that it's big enough. I actually pulled this report, which is a list of all the agreements that you can see here in bold, and all the products underneath each of them. So for instance, here under the APA products, there's psych articles and psych info, and we can see that there was a price, the current price until August 24 is this. We can see that there's a forecasted price for the next upcoming period of this. And we can also see, like the ABI inform that I just did is 10,000, and we can see that science and science signaling and those, they all had a price. They had an actual price. So the minute an actual price happens, this gets deleted. The forecasted price gets deleted from the report, and we fill it out with an actual price. So this gives you a good idea of what you will need to spend in total based on the most up-to-date information that we have. And that's as simple as clicking this forecast report button. Then you will get that report. All right, so that's a standardized report that does something that's a little bit special. But if you want to create your own report, you have tons of different report types that you can choose from. Now, the most common is a subscription report. So if, for instance, you wanted to say, I want to pull out a subscription report for 2024. Let's say that we wanted to give it, so 2024 subscriptions. Then we would say, what is it? What's the information that I want to include? And I've got all these things to choose from. So I want the agreement name. I want the product name in the report. I want the member name in the report. And I want, what do I want? The start and end date. That's obvious, right? And maybe I want the total price, maybe. And then maybe something else, but it doesn't really matter. You choose whatever you want, and then you click the refresh button. Then you get a preview of what it is that you're going to get in the report. Now, I quickly see that, hey, wait a minute, total price in original currency, but I don't know which currency it is. So I better go and include the original currency so that I know which currency we're talking about. And then I just simply refresh it and see here it's Canadian and here it's US dollars. Yeah, so Cynthia just had a quick comment in the chat about the forecasting of prices. Again, be a little patient because once the new agreement periods are created, then it becomes possible for your consortium to actually forecast the prices and say, oh, here we think it's a 3%, here it's 5%, here it's 0 and flat and so forth. But it requires you to go through that process before you get the actual prices. So just give them a little bit of space, and things will populate over time. Okay, once you're happy, because we can see here that, wait a minute, it was 2024 subscriptions I wanted, and I can already see here that I'm getting 23 and 2018 and all kinds of stuff in here that I don't want. Then I want to use some filters. And since it's a subscription report, I'm going to go to the subscriptions filter, and I'm going to say, okay, I only want the stuff that began in 2024. I could also say, I just want the stuff that's in US dollars, or I only want the stuff where the price has been finalized, or where we've ordered it with the vendor and so forth, or whether it's current or past or future subscriptions that you want. So once you select the filters on the side that you want, you simply press refresh again, and you can see now that you only have the subscription periods beginning in 2024. You've got the original currency and the total price. And once you get that, if you want to save it for later, you will just click Save Report. And if you generate it, it will send you an email with the results. Now we can just, I can't even do that here because this is actually a staging environment that doesn't send emails, but you will get a report, the report in an attached Excel file to your own email. I see that it's taking a little longer today than I hope you're good with time. I still have a little bit left on your member profile because that's actually also important. Under profile, you have a lot of interactions here. So if you've been on vacation for 2 weeks and you want to know what has actually been going on, you can actually go here and see everything that's been going on in the system. You can see that the shady character Nils has been impersonating Allison and placing orders and running reports and all that kind of stuff. But you could also view your own profile. And this is important because this is actually one of the things that I would suggest that you do first when you get your username and password to ConsortiaManager. Go to your profile and check if the data is correct. Sometimes, some of the data has maybe gotten out of date and is not up to date. That is for you to check here. There's some active contacts. Make sure that they're correct. There's some FTE data. That will probably also take a little bit of time before that gets filled out completely. Your consortium can create as many subcategories as possible, but it also has to be populated, of course, and that the reason for that is that you can actually use it to build pricing models, so that you can price out per FTE or per undergrad or per law student or whatever it is that the publisher is using, and that enables pricing for all members instead of just a few that are renewing. There's also some additional information about your particular institution. There are the latest emails from the system. You can see the IP addresses. And here I have, you can add and edit your IP addresses. I have one big ask of you is that if you see that your IP addresses have been incorrectly recorded, it's an old IP address or something that was changed a long time ago, if you still have access from the publishers, when you've corrected it, please just save the IP address. Don't save it and notify the publisher, because we will send an email to all the publishers with whom you subscribe saying, oh, this university has changed their IP address. And that's a bit of a lot of work to put on the publishers to look it up just to find that they already had the correct IP address registered. So do your publishers a favor and consider whether this is something that's a real change or whether it's just updating old information in the consortium interface, right? But that the publishers already have the information that are needed. But otherwise, it's super simple. You can add locations and descriptions, and there's also a description here about how to add IP addresses, single IP addresses and ranges, etc. here are the billing addresses. Just I know that we talked about it. I don't know whether I want to get into it now. I think I have to understand from Cynthia whether this is going to get communicated, because otherwise, if it doesn't get communicated to what was it, ISI that does the invoicing, then there's no reason to add different billing addresses here. But this is where you can add different billing addresses. And you can also add an email where you would prefer invoices for that particular billing address to be sent to electronically.
Yeah, and we just have to figure out how that's going to work, because I do know there are some where, let's say, the health sciences library gets the invoice for certain products and the main library gets it for others. We just have to figure out how we can make that convey to ISI so that they know that information.
Yeah.
For the invoicing side.
But I mean, for all the members to know, I mean, most of the ConsortiaManager customers use external systems to manage the actual invoicing and collection of payment. But ConsortiaManager can provide the data that tells the system what to invoice and so forth. So we're well experienced in communicating with external parties that does the invoicing. So we'll figure that out. More importantly, if you have a member that stops at your institution, moves to another job or retires, you can obviously go and you can deactivate that particular person. We don't delete as such, because you still want to keep a record of who ordered what for at least, I think it's 5 years. But you can choose to anonymize. And that's something that we have to do in Europe. We have to be able to anonymize the user, which means that then it'll be user number 34 instead of, in this case, Andre Richard. So you can do that too. And that means that if let's say we deactivated Richard here, then you will be able to find them under inactive contacts. Yes, Cynthia?
We prefer members not anonymized, because we did do a test on that and it totally messed up us being able to figure out how it, like, who it belonged to and all that stuff. So in reports, so please do not anonymize. We are not in Europe, and if we ever have privacy things, we will anonymize it, but not now.
I mean,
It's a nightmare.
I'm completely in line with you, Cynthia. We have to offer it, and I don't understand it, because we can't, for legal reasons, we can't delete people, because we can't, the tax authorities and all kinds of things that we can't do it. But then we have to anonymize them, but we can still look up. We still have to be able to look up who, anonymized user number 34 is. So it makes no sense. But please don't anonymize, just deactivate, and you can always activate them again if you make a mistake. When you add a new contact, it's really simple. So if I wanted to add, so my wife is becoming part of Dalhousie now, but So I need a first name, a last name, and an email. That's basically the minimum requirement. Of course, if you put in a job title, put in a phone number, because it helps if anyone else wants to get in contact with them. There are some email notifications that you can choose to get. So for instance, if you're just someone who's a view-only user and just goes there from time to time to find this little sort of arbitrary piece of information, you don't want to receive any of this. But if you're an acquisitions library, I want everything about the licenses and about the subscriptions and about the ordering and so forth. You just tick the boxes, and they're all described here what it is that you're getting when you tick the boxes. You auto-generate and send a password to the new user. So you can click this, set this to yes. and then you just save the user. It'll send an email to the user. Otherwise, you can set the password manually and give it to them. But I strongly suggest that you auto-generate it. I think we're actually going to retire this possibility because it's not very secure. Last thing, the permission level. There are 3 permission levels. View only. It goes without saying. You can look, but you can't change. You can't order. You can't cancel. You can't change stuff in the system. You can just view. And then there's the user and the administrator. The user and administrator can do everything. The only difference between a user and an administrator is that an administrator can create other users and deactivate other users. That's the only difference. But they can both place orders, cancel subscriptions, change, add information, take actions in the system. All right. If any of you, I don't know if any of you are part of multiple consortia, I don't think that's as common in Canada as it is in the US. If you have profiles on different consortia, you will also find up here a switch account button, and that means that you can, when you click that, you can see the various accounts that you had. So let's say that you're both a part of CAAL-CBPA, BCI, and COPAL or something. You have some orders with them or something. You can switch account up here and choose that interface. But I don't think that it's going to be that common in Canada. That wraps up the training. So I know that I've actually taken 10 more minutes than I usually do, but we've also had some questions along the way. So I wanted to open up for questions now and ask if anyone had something that they wanted to ask about, or whether the consortium, Cynthia, maybe you wanted to sort of wrap this up.
I'll leave it open to questions first, and then I can say some extra stuff about when we're launching and stuff.
Yeah, I see Robin has her hand up.
Yes, thank you. I have a question. You said the only difference between the admin and the user is that the admin can add and remove users. Is there any, because I'm just thinking of different roles, like people who actually place orders, but then people like the more techies who do the IP stuff. Any thinking about sort of limiting so that the IT people can't order, or is that too much?
I think you could do it, and I think we might have even had the question before. You could say that right now the view only and user, that's a pretty simple sort of, like, you cannot write to the database. That's as simple as that. You're view only, right? You can read, but you can't write. That's simple. And the admin versus user, that's also simple because it only has to do with creating other users. So that's fairly sort of condensed. Now, if we get into specific actions, then basically we would have to start looking at every single aspect where you can change. And I'm not saying that it wouldn't necessarily be a good idea, but I think it would be super complicated. And the fact is that we have had no problems with users kind of going overboard and ordering the Elsevier Freedom Collection, even though they were just supposed to update an IP address, or, oops, I stumbled and I ordered this for $1 million. So we haven't had the problem, but I completely understand what you're saying. I do think that it's a bigger, it's a bigger development request.
And some of it is budget too.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Nick, I also discovered that when they're doing the invoicing, some of the vendors decide to just tell you, after we've been informed by the consortia, that we have, because I know there is a notification that comes up to tell us that you have a subscription with renewal waiting for you.
Yeah.
Some of the service providers prefer to send their own invoice direct from themselves.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's something that you have to be. I mean, having worked with a subscription agent, I know all about this problem. That sometimes sometimes the renewals that they send are in the form of an invoice. So if you pay it, you renew, and if you don't, you don't. But then if you're using a subscription agent or if you're using a consortium, that's something that the consortium has to be very vigilant about. Because that's not good vendor behavior. That can really mess up the workflows. And if you're a consortium that manages 1,000 subscriptions, you can't have to watch out for direct renewals and direct invoicing all the time. So if I got that from a vendor who's who you're subscribing through via the consortium, I would report it to the consortium immediately so they can take action, because that's not the way it's supposed to work.
I think Consortia is they're already aware of some vendors doing that.
Yeah, I mean, it's also, remember that there is a choice that sometimes your consortium can say, listen, this is the Wiley journal agreement, and it's $10 million. We don't have the cash flow, so we're going to ask Wiley to invoice directly. We can't handle this cash flow, but then you will know about it. You will be informed. This will be invoiced directly. So just keep that in mind, that sometimes the consortium can choose something to be invoiced directly from the vendor to you guys, but you will be informed about it, and you will know about it when you renew your subscription or order your subscription.
Thank you.
All right. But then if there are no more questions, yeah, Cynthia?
So just as an update to folks, we have one more training session this week. It's the same training, so you don't have to attend a second one. But once everybody has got that done, we will be looking to post the recording so that any staff who wasn't able to attend either of the sessions, will be able to view the recording afterwards. And then Rania is working on documenting all the workflows, and we'll also be creating workflows for members, so you'll know what you need to do and how you can do it. And then once we have that ready, we will be launching simultaneously. So it's going to be a dual system, the new ConsortiaManager system. I just realized I'm not sharing my video, so it's like listening to a black hole. So we will be doing ConsortiaManager process at the same time as we're still doing the old process for at least a few months, not a few months, at least for a month, until we make sure everything's working fine, and then we will be moving fully over to ConsortiaManager. So bear with us as we do that process, and if there's any problems, you can definitely contact us and we can see what we can do to fix it. But as much as possible, we're going to try to move over to ConsortiaManager so that we only have to populate one set of the information in one place. And but we will have a time frame where we will have the dual systems. And we will let you know when we will be launching. It'll likely be sometime later next week. That's our goal, and we'll let you know beforehand. Any questions anybody has?
Oh,
Robin.
No, she's clapping.
Oh, let's clap. Sorry.
That's a clap.
I'm used to the
Robin.
Teams things, not the. Thank you, Robin.
Yeah. All right. Thank you all for participating.